Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Adrienne Wells, and I'm here to talk to you today about talent development during disruption, how we can create growth opportunities during times of disruption and change. Before I kick into the presentation view, I'd just like to say a few thanks. First, thank you to Magnetic Experiences for having me as a speaker. I'm incredibly excited today to share my thoughts that I've had over the last, well, now a month, going through this situation, and just a few of the things that are on my mind to share as we help our people navigate through this current situation. So I'm very excited about that. And I'd also just like to say thank you to everyone tuning in and listening. We can learn from each other. So I'm just excited over the next 20 minutes to share with you the things on my mind. So thank you for joining. So with that, I'll go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint and we'll get going. All right, so talent development during disruption. A little bit more about me before I dig in. My name again is Adrienne Wells. I have about 14 years of professional experience. My master's is in mental health counseling and my bachelor's is in education. Currently, I am the senior manager for talent development for Spirax Sarco. Spirax Sarco is a steam engineering company. It's actually a global company headquartered out of Cheltenham in the United Kingdom. Our USA headquarters is located in South Carolina, and that's where I have been living for the last 2.5 years with my husband and my daughter. The industries I've worked in services, education, technology, and most recently in manufacturing, engineering. My areas of expertise: talent development, talent management, performance management, succession, talent planning, really anything in that arena, and then of course coaching and mentoring. So what I'm here to talk to you about today, just our objectives for this session. I want to talk a little bit about just disruption, which is really now the new normal, but then also focusing in on our current situation, really focusing on what's going on today with the COVID-19 virus and how that's impacting and disrupting our workforce and our people, with the impact to people, what people are experiencing in this time, how that then translates into the workplace, and then our role as leaders, as people to support the organization. How do we support really our most critical resource, which is our people? And then turning disruption into development. I do think we have an opportunity, a low cost, if not free opportunity, to make sure that we're coming out on the other end of this as stronger, with more developed and knowledgeable people, so that we are better able to address the needs of our customers and to grow our businesses once we get to the other end of this. Disruption, it's already the new normal. Disruption happens every day in our lives, in the businesses that we work in. Really going on the top row here, left to right, technology. So technology, thankfully, is disrupting everything we do. There's always new technology updates, and technology really helps us to be more efficient, better capable. Thank goodness for it, because many of us find ourselves working from home right now. And so being able to leverage technology to do our jobs and to continue working during this situation is invaluable. We find ourselves in a global economy, working. I see that every day in my company, working different time zones, working with people across, the world, working, to collaborate better, using the technology to do that. And then serving our customers. Our customers, their needs are changing, their requirements are changing, and then how we adapt to fulfill their needs and to continue to serve them is incredibly important. Innovation. With innovation comes disruption and change, yet we have to do that. So just becoming more agile and flexible and adaptable just as a workforce enables us to really pick up new ideas, run with them, and let them grow our business. So there's always change ahead, right? So we should get used to it. by now, but it's still incredibly hard, right? So just a human reaction to change and how people tend to react isn't always positivity first. So how do we help our people when there is change or there is disruption? And sometimes I threw this last image in there because we can just feel like a fish jumping from one bowl to the next with changing requirements and new ways of working and new priorities. And definitely right now with the COVID-19 situation, we're jumping from one bowl to the next and not really knowing what's coming. And so this happens all the time, but right now we're just doing a lot of it. So I want to talk a little bit more about the impact of our current situation. It is a major disruption. It's a disruption really like no other that I've ever experienced. It's new for really us as a society, and it's the COVID-19 situation. Going through a global epidemic. It's unexpected, it's unprecedented, it's evolving. The situation changes from one day to the next. We've subsequently gone from, hey, this is something that we should be a little bit nervous about, to now, hey, we can't leave our homes. And, oh, by the way, maybe you should wear a mask in public. And, hey, school's canceled until May 1st. And so slowly but surely, as more information comes out, it has really just gripped our nation, gripped our states. It's really gripped my home, and having to work through what this means for us as a family, and now really adapting to what's starting to feel like the new normal. So what are the impacts? As a business, for business disruption, lower sales, potential for lower sales, putting in cost protection measures, making sure that, as a company that we can weather this time period, whether it be 3 months, 4 months, 2 more weeks, but how do we make sure that we come out of this whole? Businesses are closing. So my business luckily has stayed open, but there's many across the nation, and I'm sure in a lot of your states, that are closing and that are unable to do business. I think of my hairdresser, the nail salon, museums, state parks. I mean, there's been so much that's closed down, and with that comes furloughs and reduction in force or layoffs and just an increase in unemployment for this time period. So a lot of disruption from a business perspective. But then along with that is the personal disruption, just a total lifestyle change. Like I said in the last slide, we're now social distancing. That word is now, I'm sure, going to be in the Urban Dictionary. We say it now as if it's so natural. And a few weeks ago, we didn't have to think twice about how close we were to our neighbor, or if we happened to be talking to someone, being very aware that we should be 6 or more feet away. And so it's just really pulled in a hyper focus on just our physical spatial awareness. There's personal and emotional issues, with this current situation, just the anxiety and the fear and the worry, and no one really knows how they might handle the virus. And we hear all these stories in the news, and then we worry about those we love. We worry about our elderly and really the more vulnerable. And then, of course, financial disruptions, kind of going along with the business disruption with reductions in force and layoffs and cost protections. There can be financial implications as well. So I just wanted to share, just to liven it up for a little bit, just reactions to disruption, which really, when we say disruption, we mean change. Those are synonymous, but the emojis of change. And so you'll see right here on the left axis, on the y-axis, you've got motivation and performance. And then here on the x-axis, you have time. And so in stage 1, that's really where people are, if you look here with this little emoji on the left. So in stage 1, if you look here with this little emoji on the left, denial, it's just that feeling of everything's fine, nothing's really changed. Maybe this is where we were 3 to 4 weeks ago when we started hearing that something was happening in China. And then we subsequently heard things were starting to happen in Italy with the virus, and countries were going on lockdown. And even several weeks ago for me, I was coming back from Nashville, and I just kind of thought, okay, this is a big deal. It's happening, but it's not really happening here. So my brain hadn't quite clicked in to the fact that there was an issue or that things were about to change. So I was, just personally speaking, also very much in denial. Then comes the second stage, or the second phase, when you start going through a little bit of realization, like, wow, this is going to affect me. This is going to affect my family and the people that I love. And there's shock that comes with that. Then comes maybe a little bit of resistance, some anger, blame, becoming defensive. If we think about it in light of this situation, it's okay, but we're not going to get sick. I might not get sick. Or I'm going to work because no one can take away my livelihood. Or yeah, some people are getting sick, but not me, right? Or, as we've heard sometimes in the media, this is someone else's fault. There's someone to blame for why this came into, our country. And then we just have to let all that go. Then we dip, you go down, and then you get into really probably the sadness, I don't want to say depression, but just a period of feeling, grieving. You're letting go. Hey, things are changing. They aren't normal anymore. This is something huge that we're all collectively going through. And then just really accepting and letting go of the ability to control your environment. And then slowly but surely after that comes the searching, anxiety, fear, frustration, all that mix of emotions of what's going to happen next. And really more so with this situation than others, we are finding out day by day, what's different and what's changing. As we get into our new normal and our routine, many of us find ourselves going, okay, things are changing. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to set up my child for homeschooling? Okay, I'm going to get my office set up for work so that I can be as productive as possible and make sure I exercise and build a schedule. So there's a little bit of optimism. There's some ideas on how to cope. And I don't know if we're here yet, but if you look at the last stage for new beginnings, maybe we will feel like this guy when the COVID situation is over. But we do want to get to a place where we accept the change, we're committed, we're enthusiastic, we trust that it's going to be okay. I hope that many of us can get, and many of our people in our organizations can get to this, some version of this stage with our support and our encouragement, knowing that it is what it is. We cannot change it. It will last for as long as it lasts. And for sure, some of that is still an unknown, but we will be okay. We'll get to the other end of this. We'll come out stronger, and just having trust in one another to be able to get through it. So I thought that was kind of a fun way of looking at the emojis of change. And if any given day, I might find myself in a different place on this continuum, but I'm definitely aiming to try to get to the smiling guy over here on the right. So COVID-19 issues for our people, also known as our employees. So employees are people, they're humans, we all have the same DNA, right? So we're all trying to cope with our work persona, who we are at home, being a parent, a wife, a worker, and really across the board in general. This is what people are facing when dealing with this COVID-19 virus. Again, the social distancing. There's family stress. I can speak from example. I don't think my husband and I have worked in the same house together ever in our marriage, or really while we've been working in the jobs we have today. And, luckily he works upstairs and I work downstairs. And so we're not cramped on top of one another, but we really haven't left the house a whole lot. So we're seeing each other in the morning, during working hours, in the evening. My daughter's been out of school and likely, she's not going to go back until May 1st for sure. Who knows if she'll go back really before the summer. And so that whole extra layer of how am I a parent and a teacher at the same time? How do I help her to be productive? And then dealing with, being quite honest, my own guilt as a mother that I'm so focused on work that I can't help her as much as I feel like I should. So just that whole stress of now having to balance, and manage your time in a very different way with a lot of really demands on you as a person, all at the same time. And then financial stress. So, and again, I'm very lucky. We're very lucky that we've both been able to keep our jobs so far during this time period. But there's just still the worry. And there are people out there who, although they're working for your company, maybe their spouse is at risk of losing their job. Maybe they're now going down to one income. And then there's always the fear that, hey, I could lose my source of income, or, how long is this going to last? Do we have enough in savings? Just that whole worry and strain around just the financial piece of it. And then most importantly, just the physical and mental stress, having to worry about your health and your safety and the safety of your family. And it's now pretty commonplace for an email or a phone call to be ended by saying, stay well, stay safe. I mean, that's just become quickly part of the norm because we're all concerned about one another, but we're thinking also about our own personal safety. And what if something happens to me or my parents or my grandparents? And so that adds a whole nother layer of stress for people. So how does this translate to the workplace? Because it does, because we aren't one person at home and one person with our kids and, one person at work. We are one person. And so we bring that to the workplace every day. And especially now that many of our employees are working remotely, it's completely intertwined. And so the things that are stressing, if we go back a slide, all these things, social distancing, family stress, financial stress, mental and physical stress, all of that is happening at the same time that our people are trying to work and adjust. So how does this translate? People can have trouble focusing. They've got feelings of uncertainty, anxiety, worry, depression, just stress in general. And that can create issues with concentration. Being able to separate now that you're working from home and work, with more clear boundaries can be very difficult. So virtually working, access to the right tools at home to get work done. Is your internet strong enough? Do your kids keep coming in for snacks while you're on a conference call? Mine decides the best time to need anything is when I am occupied on a meeting or on a conference call or trying to get something done by the end of the day. Okay, and not everyone has access to their own private workspace. I have been on many calls. They're all video calls now, which is really nice. But I've been on many calls where someone's working out of their dining room or, their sunroom. They don't really have a dedicated space. And so the lines blur and it's harder sometimes then because then you're in the mix of the home environment without really any privacy to focus. Here's a big one for us working parents. School is out. That's creating a lot of challenges. And luckily I have a lot of friends that I can commiserate with. And I am very happy to have this much time with my daughter. Her name is Shelby. And it's been great having her around. And thankfully she's on spring break this week. So not such a big concern that she gets a lot of work done. But I have to be really honest. This has been really hard for me, being a working mother and then now feeling like I have to be a mother at the exact same time, and really worrying about her education and, ending maybe second grade early and not having had a chance to really learn what she should be learning because I for sure am not going to be the one to teach her all of that. So I'm going through that. I know a lot of working parents are going through that. Their kids are home, they're there, they have needs, and that can be a challenge for sure. And then pressure to perform. You know, I've heard this comment a lot also in a few calls the last few weeks of, hey, I'm busier than ever. I've got a lot more going on. Hey, this is definitely not a time to slow down. You know, we're worried about X, Y, and Z. And so just that pressure to make sure that you're not out of sight, out of mind, that you can be trusted to work remotely, that our employees feel like, hey, just because I'm at home doesn't mean that they're going to forget about me. So just that fear of layoffs, you know, is the company going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? So with that, like, what's our role as leaders? You know, and I put the asterisk here because hint, we're all leaders in some capacity. I don't believe that you need to have a title as a people leader or a people manager to lead others. You can lead others through example, your peers, your colleagues, mentor somebody. We all have our own expertise and skill sets. And so, yes, of course, as people leaders, there's a lot that we are called upon to do, but I believe all of us should be offering this to one another. No title required. Let's all be servant leaders. So what can we do and what should we do? Give time. Connect with your people. Be intentional with setting up that time. Don't just wait for them to approach you. A lot of times, especially from an employee to manager relationship, people can feel like they are interrupting you. They don't know what you're doing. They might be hesitant. And so being proactive with giving your time and saying, hey, I just want to check in. How are you doing? You know, let's have a standing lunch, a virtual lunch, or a phone call or something, but just being present and giving the gift of time to your people. Be transparent, like I'm trying to do in this presentation as well. Share your experiences. We truly are all in this together. We're all having very similar experiences. So share that, you know, share that you struggle, right? Getting your child to work on their homework and then also heading to a meeting. Normalize it. What this does, and by being transparent, it normalizes the situation for our employees so that they can then open up. People can feel nervous that if I say I'm scared, or if I say I'm worried about my job, or, you know, heaven forbid I say I'm stressed out, my manager might be worried about me, or hey, that might put me on the chopping block. I need to be positive and show that I know what I'm doing all the time, when really it's very much the opposite, especially for people's mental and emotional health. Being able to share that stuff helps them to perform better, because anytime you're holding all that in, it can do what we saw on the slides before. It can cause anxiety, depression, sadness, which only translates to difficulty concentrating on your work. When people do share, listen openly, listen without judgment. Try not to be so fast. This is kind of a coaching tip. Try not to be so fast to offer suggestions and advice. Really, for that first part, just listen. Listen with empathy, listen for understanding. Say, tell me more. Hey, okay, so how did that happen? I think a lot of us are thinking about our bottom lines right now, and rightfully so. And we've all got a lot of work as people managers and as leaders. And it can be hard to truly give enough time to be able to listen. But I would encourage all of us, myself included, just to take a deep breath and to sit back for a moment and just be present, and just to use our ears and to listen for understanding. And just by doing that, it's amazing the impact that we'll have on our people, and just giving them the security and the trust to know that, you know, they will make it through this and that they can count on us. And that develops the relationship that you have with your employees, especially during challenging times. Again, ask questions. What can you do? What can you provide? Is there any support they need? Again, people sometimes are hesitant to ask, so offer as much as you can. And then always providing empathy to one another. It's okay to be human. It's okay to feel positive one day and sad the next. It's okay to be frustrated that you haven't left your house in 4 days, or to be a little stir crazy and need a little bit of human contact, right? So that's okay. And so extending that empathy to your team and saying, hey, this isn't normal. We're going to be okay. And it's all right to feel the way you do. And I get it. So I love these pictures. So how do we then help our team to survive or to thrive instead of just survive? I truly feel like it's a choice. These are the times that test us as people. This is actually where true development takes place, when we're tossed into a situation that we've never been in before, and we really have to figure out how to thrive, how to take advantage of our skill sets and our knowledge and the people around us to really lift ourselves up and grow, right? And come out the other end of this stronger than we were before. And so how do we create an environment for our people where they can thrive during disruptive times and periods of change? And I like these two images because if you look at the one on the left, clearly that sailboat is in survival mode. It is trying to move as fast as it possibly can to get away from the tsunami. And so if you can just imagine for a moment the attitudes of the people on the boat, the fear, the worry, I think we're all going to die kind of mentality. It does look like there's not really much of a chance. And so sometimes we can feel this way, right? Hey, I'm not going to make it. I'm drowning. I'm overwhelmed. As leaders, this can often translate to our team. They can see this and then they feed off that energy and they go, we're not going to be okay. This does feel scary. I'm more scared now than I was before. And so when you're in survival mode, not just as a person, but as a leader, that can trickle down and really infect the rest of your team. So if we look at the image to the right, the duck, love this analogy. Ducks always seem to be moving as quickly as they can to get from one side to the other. They're paddling like heck, like hell, really, underneath the water. But on top, they're cool, they're calm, they're collected. You can't see that what's going on under the surface, trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. And so really, what would it take for us to be the duck? Even though we might have strains and stressors and we might be privy to information that does make us as leaders worry about what's going on for the organization and the impact to our people, how do we take that and turn it into the paddling under the water and instead use that to present to our team a facade of calm? It's going to be okay. I'm here. And so often as leaders, it's on us to be able to do both at the same time. And I think when we do that, we create an environment where people feel like they can thrive, right? They can process what they need to process. They can pick themselves up. They can move on, and they can feel like they're growing and that they're thriving versus just surviving. So I would challenge us all to be the duck. Turn disruption into development. There's a couple of ways. Again, I know we don't all have deep pockets right now, and a lot of companies, mine included, we've hit the pause button on spending any extra money on external training and individual development for cost protections as we get through this time. But there's a lot of things that we can do for development that will support our team in getting through this time. That's free at no cost to us as an organization. So the first being stretch projects. I'll have a few more details on another slide on what those could look like. Formal training could be something where you could host that internally. You might have partners across the business or training and development teams that can help in conducting some formal training. With the reduced travel time that many of our employees are experiencing, there is time. If I look at my position, a lot of the things that I was going to be doing, which was bringing in external providers to conduct some formal training. Well, now I can just redirect my energy and my focus and come up with some free internal formal training to bring people together to develop them. Coaching, it doesn't cost any more than your time. And so as a leader, spending time coaching your employees or mentoring someone, coaching is a game changer for development. You know, I like to think that we learn a lot more when we do something experientially. So that's being like a stretch project. Formal training is always helpful in learning new knowledge or new skills, but it's really the coaching that brings the magic in, especially when you have a coach that you trust, someone that you can go to who will look at your work or your experience and really give you feedback and say, hey, I saw you did this, that was great. I saw you do this. I would change that in the future, and let me help you see how you can do that. So incredibly powerful. And again, it's free. It just takes your time. And then expanded roles. You know, we are being creative as an organization. Priorities are shifting. Companies are adapting. And so as a part of this, there could be an opportunity for someone on your team to take on, you know, either an expanded role or a new role, and just getting creative in how you leverage the people that you have. All of this translates into development for your team. And just anytime that we can develop new skills, acquire new knowledge, that always equals growth for ourselves, our people, and that translates into business growth, which is what we're here for. So some examples here for resources that you can leverage for development at no cost. If we look at stretch projects, that could be projects due to reprioritization, cross-functional projects, projects related to business continuity, and then environmental health and safety projects. With the COVID-19 situation, there's this huge demand for the health, safety, and well-being of our employees. So are there some projects that some of your employees could take part in that space that would help them to develop and really stretch themselves while also giving a benefit to the organization? Some free online resources. The options are limitless. I did a quick Google search, and when I was preparing for this, in addition to the things I already know, I just wanted to get some validation and see what was out there. There is so much out there. There's free articles, there's free websites, there's a lot of training providers that are offering free resources. And so I would say, first, go to your network, your LinkedIn network, see what other companies and other people are doing to provide webinars for their customers, especially in the current climate. There's a lot out there about leading virtual teams, working virtually, health and wellness during this time period. So there is a lot out there that you can capture and share with your team that doesn't necessarily hold a cost. Professional organizations like Gallup, and SHRM and some other organizations are always publishing content. And I've got another slide here at the end with just a few links. So maybe you can write down the title and go search those later, but there is a lot available out there. Universities, so like Harvard, Stanford, Harvard and Stanford, many of them have made a lot of their courses available online. And so these are online free learning opportunities through some of these colleges and universities. And then always TED Talks. I love TED Talks. They're free, they're on YouTube, they're fantastic. They're no more than 20 minutes. And so organizing some of that for your employees as well. So really all it takes for the free online resources is to gather it and then communicate it. So your internal experts, right? So look around you. We've got expertise across all of our companies at different levels. And so just take a look at the landscape. Look at your executive leaders, your functional leaders and experts, your business unit leaders, your IT department, your internal training team, and how can you leverage that expertise and connect it with your employees, whether it be a training initiative, coaching, mentoring, email communication out to just give tips and tricks to your team. All of that can help with people development. And then finally, just training enablement, just using the spaces where people come together to have development Conversations, so leadership circles, getting managers together to talk about the challenges with the team, what it's like to lead a team virtually and to learn from one another can be very powerful. And then that all translates into positive development and learning for their team. Lunch and learns, it's free. It just takes time. Again, using team meetings and having a portion of the team meeting be a check-in. You can get the tactical stuff, but then also, what about development? What are we learning? Has anyone learned something new that they can share, and bringing that into the team meeting space? And then always, for us, we have an established learning program. It's called our Academy. There is a lot of content that has been made available on that platform. I can't say that we've used as much as we could have been using, but this has been a great opportunity for us, and in my role specifically, to look at what's available, package it, communicate it, find creative ways that we can focus on established learning programs that are online, that are virtual, e-learning, especially since many of us have a reduced travel schedule. So just getting creative with that and kind of repackaging it and just communicating it to your team. I'll say that before I go to the next slide. All of this is about communicating opportunities to your people. A lot of times, and if you look at just this list of development opportunities and options, there are so many ways that we can develop our people. So if we go back to the slide on our role as leaders, just to listen, ask questions, find the right development opportunity, whether it's setting someone up with a coach or inviting them, or having them speak at a team meeting, putting them on a stretch project. But once you figure out what it is people need, there's a lot of ways that you can creatively connect them with the right opportunities so that they develop. So what are we doing at Spirax Sarco? At my company, we are leveraging our internal learning academy. We are sharing a host of health and wellness and how to deal with disruption content and curriculum. We are accelerating our sales training because many of our sales engineers are not traveling as much as they used to, so they have a little bit of extra time while they're continuing to serve our customers and get orders. So accelerating that with a very creative campaign that includes a leaderboard and some targets each week, and it's all online. It's already established. We've had access to it for a long time, but just getting creative on how we position that and how we run this campaign to say, hey, let's develop during our downtime. We'll come out of this stronger and better able to serve our customers. We're also preparing a schedule to deploy targeted trainings by functional area. So for our supply team, our sales team, our back office, we're looking at training for both individual contributors and management training. Now we have the Learning Academy, which has access to a lot of online free content already that's provided to us, but you could do the same thing with TED Talks, online courses, a LinkedIn webinar. There's a way to get creative with this if you don't already own the content. Managers are working with their employees to talk about their development. The manager is the single most important person in this equation. We can have the most extensive library in our online academy. We can do formal training once a month, but it's really the power of development lies between the manager and their employee. So sharing the tips and the things that I've covered during this session with your management team, saying, hey, this is our role. Are you conducting one-on-ones? Are you including development in your team meetings? Is there anything that we can do to help you do more of that? And really having them pick up the mantle of working with their employees and really encouraging their development. It's absolutely critical. And then we're also encouraging remote teams to increase their video usage. I can tell you right now, I've had more video calls than I think I ever had before in my working career, and it's fantastic. It's increasing our collaboration, it's increasing our connectedness, it's giving us access to the outside world, even though it's through technology, and really encouraging your managers and your teams to use the video and use technology as much as they can. Creates an environment where people can develop, grow, and really get through this together. So last slide, what to watch next. I realize these are hyperlinks, so probably a little bit of a challenge for you to click on. I'm not sure if that's something that you can even do in this presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these up on the screen. These are the titles. I found a great resource from Gallup, COVID-19, what employees need from leaders right now, leading through COVID-19 from Stanford, and then again, another one, leading through COVID-19 from MIT Sloan, and then coronavirus COVID-19 leadership resources for times of crisis. And that's actually from the Center for Creative Leadership, which is just a great example of a third-party training provider, CCL, very well known for their leadership training. And they have published some free resources and training tools for people to use during this time period. So the list probably goes on and on. There's a lot out there. These are just a few things that I have found to be helpful. Hopefully the content that I have covered in this presentation has been useful, has just prompted you maybe just to think about how you as a leader can support your employees, how you can develop them during this time, how you can help other managers or your peers develop their team during this time. So I'll just end by saying thank you. Good luck. I know we're all going through something big right now, but we'll all get through this together. And I hope this session has been valuable for you in thinking more on how you can still develop your people, support your people, lead through disruption. Thank you for joining me. Very much appreciate it, and have a wonderful day.